The price of pride. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime, watching ships drift through the purple-tinged atmosphere. Her reflection showed a woman in her 40s, wearing the distinctive silver and blue uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Behind her, a holographic display showed the devastation on Proxima Ii, a developing world that Earth had been helping for the past 5 years. "Play it again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath. The recording showed Earth's medical ships arriving at Proxima Ii, only to find their landing zones destroyed and their supply caches ransacked. It was the 4th such incident in 3 months. "Analysis confirms Confederation energy signatures," reported Captain Marcus Rivera, her military attaché. The dark-skinned officer's usually cheerful demeanor was replaced by carefully controlled fury. "They're getting bolder, Ambassador. This wasn't just interference. They wanted us to know it was them." Sarah nodded slowly. For 15 years, humanity had played by the Galactic Confederation's rules. They had accepted the restrictions on their expansion, the oversight of their technological development, and the constant lectures about how young species needed guidance. But they had never accepted the Confederation's policy of letting developing civilizations struggle alone. "Send the evidence to Earth Command," she ordered, "and get me a meeting with the Confederation High Council. It's time they learn that humans don't appreciate being played for fools." The High Council chamber was a monument to the Confederation's ancient power. Crystalline spires stretched toward a distant ceiling, while representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in tiered rings. Sarah stood before them, her evidence displayed in stark holographic detail above the chamber floor. "These attacks bear the energy signatures of Confederation vessels," she declared, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. "You claim to guide younger species, yet you sabotage genuine humanitarian aid. The people of Proxima Ii needed those medical supplies." High Counselor Vexthor, his serpentine form draped in ceremonial robes, waved a dismissive hand. "The development of younger species must follow natural patterns," he stated. "Your interference, however well-intentioned, disrupts the established order." "The established order?" Sarah's laugh was sharp and without humor. "You mean the order that keeps developing worlds dependent on Confederation approval? The one that conveniently ensures they'll never advance enough to challenge your authority?" Murmurs of outrage rippled through the chamber. Vexthor's scales darkened with anger. "You forget your place, Ambassador. Humanity is still a young species. Perhaps it is time for increased oversight of your activities." Sarah's smile was cold as space itself. "No, High Counselor. Perhaps it's time you learned what humanity has been doing while you were busy underestimating us." She activated her neural link, and throughout Confederation space, encrypted quantum channels blazed to life. On 1,000 worlds, hidden human observers began transmitting their findings. 15 years of careful documentation revealed a pattern of systematic suppression, not just of humanity, but of every rising species that showed too much promise. "We've watched you sabotage medical missions, accidentally destroy research facilities, and create artificial resource shortages," Sarah continued, as the evidence filled the air around her. "All while preaching about guidance and natural development. Did you think we wouldn't notice? That we'd just accept your lectures about patience while you actively work to keep us down?" The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives shouted denials, others demanded investigations, and a few sat in stunned silence as decades of carefully hidden policies were exposed. "Humanity will no longer participate in this charade," Sarah announced. "Effective immediately, Earth is withdrawing from all Confederation oversight agreements. We will continue our humanitarian missions, and we will defend them with force if necessary." "You cannot." Vexthor rose, his massive form towering over the chamber. "The consequences. The consequences." Sarah's smile grew sharper. "Look to your sensors, High Counselor. While we've been talking, human ships have been decloaking throughout Confederation space. Not the outdated vessels you allowed us to build, but the ones we actually built. Would you like to see what 15 years of hidden development looks like? On cue, human warships shimmered into visibility around every major Confederation world. Not the primitive craft they had shown the galaxy, but sleek vessels incorporating technologies the Confederation had fought centuries beyond human achievement. "We're done playing by your rules," Sarah declared. "Humanity is offering a choice. Work with us as equals to build a better galaxy, or watch as we do it without you. Either way, the age of Confederation dominance is over." As she turned to leave the chamber, Sarah paused. "Oh, and those medical supplies you destroyed. Backup shipments are already arriving at Proxima II. Unlike you, we don't abandon those who need help." The chamber dissolved into pandemonium behind her, but Sarah didn't look back. Humanity had given diplomacy 15 years to work. Now it was time for a new approach, one that would reshape the galaxy forever. In orbit above Centauri Prime, Captain Rivera waited on the bridge of the Earth vessel Prometheus. The ship's true capabilities, hidden for so long, hummed beneath his feet. As Sarah's shuttle approached, he allowed himself a small smile. The Confederation was about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating humanity. And this was only the beginning. Silent Thunder. Operation Starbridge began at exactly 0-hour Earth Standard Time. Across Confederation space, hidden human vessels emerged from their centuries-long vigil. But these ships weren't appearing to threaten. They were there to protect. Admiral Elena Santos stood on the bridge of the EFSS Hyperion, watching as her fleet's true form was revealed for the first time. The sleek black vessels had shed their crude commercial disguises, exposing hulls made of materials that the Confederation had deemed theoretically impossible. But humanity had long since learned that impossible was just another word for not trying hard enough. "Status report," she commanded, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display, showing hundreds of human ships taking up defensive positions around vulnerable developing worlds. "All ships reporting ready." Admiral, her XO, Commander David Chen, responded. "The Confederation is scrambling their response fleets, but they're moving exactly as predicted. They still think we're using their approved dry systems." Elena allowed herself a small smile. The Confederation's arrogance had always been their greatest weakness. They were so convinced of their technological superiority that they'd never questioned why humans had seemingly accepted their restricted tech for so long. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "Begin Phase 2. Across human space, massive structures that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations began to move. These were the culmination of Project Phoenix, mobile shipyards and research stations that humans had been building in secret for decades. Each one represented a technological achievement that the Confederation had insisted was centuries beyond human capability. On the Confederation capital world of Axis Prime, High Counselor Vex Thor was facing the greatest crisis of his 300-year career. The chamber that had once been a symbol of Confederation power was now a scene of chaos and recrimination. "How did we not see this coming?" demanded Representative Kittel of the Euraxian Empire, their crystalline form vibrating with anger. They were supposed to be primitives barely capable of interstellar flight. "Our intelligence suggested," Vex Thor began, but was cut off by a priority alert. The massive screen dominating the chamber showed a human fleet performing an impossible maneuver. Their ships were moving through hyperspace without using established lanes. "That's not possible," whispered technical advisor Zinra, her tentacles writhing in agitation. "Their drives should tear apart at those velocities. The mathematical principles." "We're wrong," came a familiar voice. Ambassador Sarah Chen's hologram appeared before the council, her expression calm but determined. "Or rather, your understanding of them was incomplete. Humanity didn't spend the last 15 years just accepting your limitations. We spent it proving them wrong." "What do you want?" Vex Thor demanded, trying to maintain some semblance of control over the situation. "The same thing we've always wanted. Genuine cooperation for the benefit of all species," Sarah replied. Right now, human ships are positioning themselves to protect every developing civilization in Confederation space. Not to conquer, not to exploit, but to ensure they have the chance to grow without interference. The tactical displays showed the truth of her words. Human vessels had taken up defensive positions around dozens of worlds, but they weren't charging weapons or making threats. They were simply present, a silent statement that the old way of doing things was over. Back on the Hyperion, Admiral Santos received a priority message from Earth Command. The Confederation's response fleets were mobilizing, but not in the way they'd expected. Instead of moving to challenge the human vessels, many were standing down. Some were even requesting to open communications. It seems not everyone in the Confederation agrees with their leadership, Commander Chen observed, studying the incoming signals. Several fleet commanders are expressing support for our actions. They're tired of the old restrictions too. Humanity never wanted to stand alone, Alina replied, watching as more Confederation ships broke formation to approach human vessels in peaceful contact. We just refused to stand still. The next 24 hours would reshape the galaxy's political landscape forever. As news spread of humanity's technological achievements and their choice to use that power to protect rather than dominate, the Confederation's grip on power began to crumble. Young species that had been kept dependent for centuries found their voices, inspired by Earth's example. On a dozen worlds, protests erupted demanding an end to Confederation oversight. Ships from primitive species revealed their own hidden advances, joining human vessels in their protective stance. The carefully maintained hierarchy of galactic civilization was collapsing, replaced by something new and unprecedented: genuine cooperation between equals. In her office on Centauri Prime, Sarah Chen received the first of many messages from Confederation worlds requesting new diplomatic relations, not as superiors to subordinates, but as partners. The revolution they had planned for so long hadn't required a single shot fired. Sometimes, the most powerful statement was simply showing what you could do and choosing not to use that power for dominance. Admiral Santos reports that 3 more Confederation fleet commanders have requested joint operations, her aide reported. They're asking to learn about our hyperspace navigation techniques. Sarah nodded, remembering all the times the Confederation had lectured humanity about patience and knowing their place. Send them our standard response. We're happy to share knowledge with those willing to share in return. The age of artificial restrictions is over. Across the galaxy, the silent thunder of humanity's revelation continued to roll. They had proven not just their technological prowess, but something far more important. That power didn't have to corrupt, that advancement didn't have to lead to dominance, and that sometimes the strongest statement was choosing not to strike when you could. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had lit the spark, but they had no intention of burning the old order down. Instead, they would help build something new from its foundations, a future where species rose together, where knowledge was shared rather than hoarded, and where the only limits were the ones you chose to accept. Operation Starbridge wasn't just a demonstration of power, it was a bridge to that future, and as Admiral Santos watched more ships gather in peaceful assembly around her fleet, she knew that the bridge was already being crossed. The Awakening. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the control center of Starforge Alpha, watching as the massive station's cloaking field dissolved. For 20 years, this had been humanity's best-kept secret, a research facility the size of a small moon, hidden in the depths of what the Confederation had dismissed as an uninhabitable system. Broadcasting recognition codes now, her assistant announced. Across the system, 5 more Starforge stations were decloaking. Each represented a different focus of human advancement: biotechnology, quantum mechanics, artificial intelligence, dark matter manipulation, and dimensional physics, fields that the Confederation had claimed were too dangerous for young species to explore. "We're receiving responses," the communications officer reported. The Rithian and Kilari delegations are approaching. They're showing their own hidden facilities. Maya smiled. Humanity hadn't been the only ones keeping secrets. As the Confederation's grip on power weakened, more species were revealing their true capabilities. The Rithians, labeled as primitive agricultural specialists, had mastered biological engineering far beyond Confederation levels. The Kilari, dismissed as simple miners, had developed quantum technology that even humans hadn't achieved. On the diplomatic station New Geneva, Ambassador Sarah Chen met with representatives from 20 developing species. The room crackled with an energy that had nothing to do with technology. It was the energy of chains breaking, of potential finally unleashed. For too long, we accepted their limitations, declared Corell, the Rithian ambassador. His plant-based form pulsed with colors of excitement. We believed their warnings about technologies being too dangerous for us. But humanity showed us the truth. They weren't protecting us. They were controlling us. Sarah nodded, remembering her own awakening to this reality years ago. The question now is what we do with this freedom. Humanity didn't reveal our capabilities to destroy the old order, but to build something better. The Confederation is already fracturing, reported Ambassador Lith of the Kilari, her crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns that indicated deep thought. Many of the younger Confederation species are questioning their allegiance. Even some of the elder races are admitting the system was corrupt. The tactical displays showed the changing political landscape. The Confederation's once unified territory was splitting into new alliances. Some clung to the old hierarchy, but many were reaching out to humanity and other young species, seeking genuine partnership rather than dominance. In deep space, another secret was revealing itself. Hyperspace corridors that humanity had mapped and secured over decades were now being shared with trusted allies. These routes, unknown to the Confederation, allowed ships to travel faster and more efficiently than anyone had thought possible. Admiral Santos, coordinating from the Hyperion, watched as joint fleet exercises began. Human ships flew alongside vessels from a dozen species, each bringing their own unique technologies and approaches. The Rithians' bioengineered ships could heal themselves. Kilari vessels phased through normal space in ways that defied conventional physics. It's like watching evolution accelerate, Commander Chen observed, as the combined fleet performed maneuvers that would have been impossible just weeks ago. Every species brings something new to the table. But not everything was proceeding smoothly. Some Confederation hardliners were refusing to accept the new reality. Reports came in of attempted sabotage against developing worlds, of desperate attempts to maintain control through force. That's when humanity revealed another secret. Throughout supposedly empty regions of space, automated defense platforms activated. These sentinels, built by human engineers and enhanced by AI systems far beyond what the Confederation thought possible, created a protective network around vulnerable worlds. They're calling it the Shield of Terra, Maya's assistant reported, reading the latest diplomatic updates. The Confederation hardliners tried to attack 3 developing worlds in the past hour. Every attack was stopped before it reached orbit. In the New Geneva conference room, the assembled representatives watched footage of the defense platforms in action. The technology was impressive, but what struck them most was how the systems were programmed. They didn't destroy attacking ships. They simply disabled them, protecting without punishing. This is the difference, Corell observed. The Confederation built power to control. Humanity built it to protect. And now they're sharing it. Sarah stood at the conference room window, watching ships from 24 species dock at the station. Each vessel carried scientists, engineers, and diplomats eager to share knowledge that had been hidden for generations. The awakening wasn't just about revealing hidden technology. It was about species finally showing their true potential. We're receiving more requests for cooperation, Lith announced. The Zarkeli have revealed their advances in dark energy manipulation. The Vex are offering their quantum computing breakthroughs. Even some elder Confederation races are admitting they kept discoveries hidden, afraid of losing their status. This was the true revolution, not the overthrow of the old order, but the creation of something entirely new. A network of species working together, sharing discoveries, protecting each other. The Confederation had claimed this was impossible, that younger species needed to be controlled and guided. But as Maya watched joint research teams file into Starforge Alpha, as Sarah coordinated diplomatic efforts that would have been unthinkable months ago, as Alina oversaw fleet exercises that combined technologies in ways never before attempted, they proved that the only real limits were the ones they chose to accept. The awakening wasn't just about revealing hidden strength. It was about showing a better way forward. And as more species joined this new coalition, it became clear that the galaxy would never be the same. Shattered chains. The great halls of the Confederation capital stood empty, where once thousands of representatives had gathered to maintain the facade of unified galactic governance. Now only echoes remained. In the central chamber, High Counselor Vex Thor stared at the latest reports with unblinking eyes. The Confederation, which had stood for 10,000 years, was dissolving before him. Another sector has declared independence, his aide reported, voice trembling. The Proxima cluster has joined what they're calling the Free Systems Alliance. They're already implementing human-designed quantum communication networks. Across the galaxy, the chains of control were breaking, not through violence or revolution, but through something far more powerful: choice. Species that had been labeled as developing or primitive were stepping into their true potential, sharing technologies and knowledge they had hidden for generations. On the newly established Unity Station, Ambassador Sarah Chen met with the Leadership Council of the emerging alliance. The station itself was a testament to cooperation. Designed by humans, built with Rithian biotechnology, powered by Kilari quantum cores, and protected by defensive systems from a dozen different species. The last major Confederation trade hub has switched allegiance, reported Admiral Santos via hologram. Her fleet now included ships from 20 different species, each contributing unique capabilities. Their economic control is completely broken. It's not just about economics, added Dr. Maya Patel, joining from Starforge Alpha. The research station had become a nexus of collaborative innovation, with scientists from across the galaxy sharing discoveries that had been suppressed for centuries. We're seeing technological advancement rates that the Confederation claimed were impossible. When species work together instead of competing, progress accelerates exponentially. The latest breakthrough displayed on the station's screens: a fusion of human AI systems, Rithian organic computing, and Kilari quantum processors. Together, they had created something entirely new: an intelligence that could navigate hyperspace itself, opening routes that no one had thought possible. But not everyone welcomed these changes. A coalition of hardline Confederation worlds had fortified their borders, clinging to the old ways of control and dominance. They launched desperate attacks against Alliance worlds, trying to prove that the old order was still supreme. Their efforts proved futile. The Shield of Terra, now enhanced by technologies from a dozen species, turned aside their strongest weapons. Alliance vessels, combining capabilities that the Confederation had deliberately kept separate, demonstrated combat effectiveness that made traditional military doctrine obsolete. They still don't understand, Commander Chen observed, watching another failed attack dissipate against the shield network. They think this is about power. It was never about power. It was about potential. In the depths of space, another transformation was taking place. The mysterious hyperspace corridors that humanity had mapped were expanding, altered by Kilari phase technology and stabilized by Rithian organic anchors. What had once been narrow, hidden paths became major trade routes, connecting species that the Confederation had kept isolated. Sarah walked through Unity Station's diplomatic quarter, where representatives from former enemy species now worked together on joint projects. The Zarkeli, once bitter rivals of the Vex, were combining their dark energy manipulation with Vex quantum computing to revolutionize space travel. The Murith, who had fought the Kilari for centuries under Confederation manipulation, were using their combined knowledge to terraform dead worlds into garden planets. The Confederation tried to keep us weak by keeping us apart, Corell noted, his plant-based form now incorporating crystalline elements. a gift from Kilari Biotechnology. They never imagined what would happen when we started working together. The evidence of that cooperation was everywhere. Ships that combined multiple species technologies, research projects that fused different scientific approaches, defense systems that adapted and evolved. But most importantly, there was trust, hard-earned, carefully maintained, and growing stronger each day. In orbit around Earth, the first graduates of the new Galactic Academy were completing their training. Young beings from hundreds of species, learning not just technology and science, but understanding. Human instructors taught alongside Rithian philosophers and Kilari engineers, creating a new generation that saw cooperation as natural as breathing. The latest estimates suggest that collaborative research has advanced our collective technology by several centuries in just a few months, Maya reported during the council meeting. But more importantly, we're developing new ways of thinking, new approaches to problems that none of us could have conceived alone. The remaining Confederation hardliners made their final stand in the Centauri sector. A massive fleet, representing the last vestiges of the old order, emerged from hyperspace with weapons charged. They expected to face human ships, perhaps backed by a few allies. Instead, they found themselves confronted by vessels they couldn't even comprehend. Ships that phased through normal space, protected by shields that adapted to any weapon, guided by AI that could predict their every move. Not just human ships, but a combined fleet representing dozens of species working in perfect coordination. No shots were fired. The Confederation fleet, faced with the living proof of everything they had tried to prevent, stood down. The chains of the old order didn't break with violence. They simply became irrelevant. In the aftermath, Sarah stood with representatives from across the galaxy as they drafted the founding charter of what would become the Stellar Alliance. Not a hierarchy of control, but a network of equals. Not a system of restrictions, but a framework for cooperation. The Confederation's greatest fear, she mused, watching ships of all species move freely through space, was that we would become too powerful if we worked together. They were right about the power, but wrong about what we do with it. The chains had shattered, but they weren't replaced with new ones. Instead, they were forged into bridges, connecting species and civilizations in ways that would reshape the galaxy forever. New Dawn. The Stellar Alliance vessel, Horizon, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. What made this system special wasn't its composition or location, but rather its inhabitants, a species that had just achieved their first faster-than-light flight. On the Horizon's bridge, a crew representing the diversity of the new galactic order prepared for humanity's favorite moment. First contact. Captain Sarah Chen, formerly Ambassador Chen, had specifically requested this mission. After helping break the chains of the old Confederation, she wanted to be part of showing a better way forward. Detecting their test vessel, reported Lieutenant Corell, his plant-based form interfaced directly with the ship's hybrid sensor systems. They're attempting their first FTL jump. Their drive design is innovative, different from anything we've seen before. That's exactly why we're here, Sarah replied, watching the local species ship on the main viewer. Every species brings something new to the table. That's what the Confederation never understood. The Horizon itself was a testament to that philosophy. Its hull combined human stealth technology with Rithian organic materials. Kilari quantum cores powered engines designed by 3 different species engineers. The AI that helped coordinate ship functions incorporated wisdom from a dozen different cultures. They're having trouble with their containment field, announced Dr. Maya Patel from engineering. Their design is sound, but they haven't quite mastered the power regulation. Sarah nodded. Standard first contact protocol. Move within range and establish a safety field. Let's make sure their first step into the galaxy is a successful one. The Horizon glided forward, its advanced systems gently extending a protective bubble around the struggling vessel. On their screens, they could see the crew of the alien ship, bipedal beings with iridescent scales, working frantically to stabilize their drive. Broadcasting the first contact package. Commander Chen reported. The carefully crafted message, developed through decades of human experience and refined by the combined wisdom of the Alliance, began transmitting on all frequencies. It contained basic mathematical sequences, universal constants, and simple greeting protocols. The response came faster than expected. The alien vessel's crew had not only received their transmission but had already begun decoding it. Their return signal showed remarkable insight into communications theory. "They're natural communicators," Corell observed, his colors shifting with excitement. "Their signal structure suggests highly advanced linguistic capabilities." Sarah smiled. The Confederation would have seen them as primitives struggling with basic FTL technology. They would have swooped in with their restrictions and oversight, never bothering to look deeper. The next few hours proved her point. As the Horizon's crew established basic communication with the new species, who called themselves the Lyrani, they discovered a civilization rich with potential. Their grasp of theoretical physics, while different from established approaches, offered entirely new perspectives on space-time manipulation. Their drive design, Maya reported, after analyzing their technical data, it's inefficient by our standards, but the underlying principles, they're approaching FTL travel from an angle none of us ever considered, if we combine their insights with our existing technology. This was what the Alliance was about, not just helping new species, but learning from them. Every civilization, given freedom to develop in its own way, brought new ideas to the galactic community. The Lyrani, for their part, were astonished to encounter not just one alien species, but representatives of a diverse interstellar alliance. Their initial fear gave way to curiosity as the Horizon's crew shared stories of how the galaxy had transformed. "They're asking about membership in the Alliance," Chen reported, reviewing the latest translations. "They want to know what they'll have to give up to join." Sarah moved to the communications station herself. "Tell them the truth, that the only requirement for Alliance membership is a commitment to mutual cooperation and respect. Tell them that we're not here to restrict them or guide them, but to welcome them as equals." The response from the Lyrani ship was immediate and enthusiastic. They shared more of their research, including theories about dimensional physics that even the combined scientific minds of the Alliance hadn't conceived. Over the next few days, more Alliance ships arrived, each demonstrating different aspects of galactic civilization. A Rithian research vessel showed the possibilities of biological technology. A Kilari transport demonstrated quantum phase travel. Human ships display the art of blending multiple technological approaches. But what impressed the Lyrani most wasn't the technology. It was the cooperation they witnessed. Species that had once been bitter enemies now worked together seamlessly. Technologies that the Confederation had kept separate were combined in ways that created something greater than the sum of their parts. In the Horizon's observation lounge, Sarah watched as the first Lyrani representatives boarded the station that would serve as their introduction to galactic society. Their eyes were wide with wonder, not just at the technology, but at the sight of so many different species working together as equals. "They're already proposing joint research projects," Maya reported, reviewing the preliminary discussions. Their theories about dimensional physics, combined with Kilari phase technology and human AI systems, we might be looking at the next major breakthrough in space travel. The Confederation would have suppressed their research, Corell noted, his colors reflecting satisfaction. They would have claimed it was too dangerous, too advanced for a young species. Sarah nodded. "Instead, we'll help them develop it safely, combining their insights with our experience." That's the difference between control and cooperation. As the Horizon prepared to escort the Lyrani ship on its first intentional FTL journey, Sarah reflected on how far they'd all come. The galaxy had transformed from a hierarchy of control to a network of cooperation. Species that had been deemed too primitive or too dangerous were now leading innovations in science and culture. "New contact," Chen announced. "Another species has achieved FTL capability in the Orion sector. They're using a completely different approach to space travel." Sarah smiled. This was the new dawn they had fought for. A galaxy where every species could reach for the stars in their own way, where diversity was celebrated rather than controlled, where the only limits were the ones they chose to accept. "Set course for the Orion sector," she ordered. "Let's go welcome some new neighbors to the community." The Horizon jumped to hyperspace, carrying representatives of a unified galaxy to meet yet another unique civilization. In its wake, the Lyrani began their own journey into a future they never expected, one where the stars represented not just scientific achievement, but membership in a community that valued them for who they were, not what others thought they should be. This was humanity's greatest victory, not breaking the chains of the Confederation, but helping to build something better in its place. A galaxy where every new dawn brought not restrictions and control, but opportunities for discovery, cooperation, and growth.